Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today it's story time. I'm going to share with you folks story of how I found and how I got a case full of Hasselblads for just $100. I was lucky enough to be able to find that, and I'm going to tell you the story of how that happened. Stay tuned. So basically, a couple of years ago, I think it was definitely 2016. I was looking around online for cameras and stuff, and I stumbled upon an estate sale not far from where I live. It was actually only a few miles away, which which is really good when you find something that you're interested in and it's right around the corner. Basically, you don't have to travel too far or anything like that. And what I saw in this estate sale ad was the photograph you're seeing right now. It was a case, a camera case, and inside cameras and lenses and equipment. At first glance, um, I had to look closely to see what I was looking at because I wasn't looking specifically for a Hasselblad or anything like that. If anything, at the time, I was kind of interested in finding like Raleigh Flexes and cameras like those types. And so at this particular estate sale, just a few miles away, I see this photograph, and then soon after I identify that, okay, I'm looking at some Hasselblad equipment. And at first, also looking at the photograph, I thought I was looking at just one camera on the top right. But upon closer inspection, I see another body in the bottom middle, and what looks to be like a Polaroid back on the left, another film back all the way on the left, and some extra accessories um, in the case. So that caught my attention. I had never owned a Hasselblad before. I've been a professional photographer for over 20 years, and when I first started back in the 90s, I couldn't really afford a Hasselblad. So I used, like for medium format, I was using a Mamiya camera, and never really kind of thought twice about shooting with a Hasselblad, especially because about maybe 10 years or less into my career, photography started going digital, and eventually I sold my Mamiya and started shooting digitally. So a few years ago, I started getting back into film, and like I said, I had purchased some cameras, and at that particular time in 2016, I was looking for a Raleigh Flex camera, which I had already purchased one, also at an estate sale, but it had a problem with a lens, and so I was looking for another one, something that might work a little better. And then I stumbled upon this photograph here of a case with a couple of Hasselblads in it, and it was only about 5 miles away from my house. So I was really interested, and the estate sale also had two other photographs with of cases with cameras that were not Hasselblads, and I'll show those now on the screen. And they were some Mamiya equipment, some older Mamiya, and one case had some nice clean cameras, and then the other case looked like a disaster. The foam inside the case apparently had melted away or deteriorated over the years, and had totally um, deteriorated onto the equipment. So it looked like hell, as you can see in the photograph. So this estate sale had three cases of cameras, two cases with different Mamiya equipment, and one case with a couple of Hasselblads and extra stuff. So immediately I started kind of researching a little bit more Hasselblad, and I started to recall how back in the 90s, when I was starting, I knew a photographer that used to swear by the Hasselblad. He used to tell me all the time, it's the greatest camera, greatest lenses. And I was just like, yeah, yeah, okay. I really can't afford it, so whatever. And that was that. But I recall that, and so I was like, okay, maybe I should go check this out. So I started checking things out online, and I was definitely interested. Now, the estate sale was a few days away from the time I was reading about it. If you don't know what an estate sale is, basically, it's um, either somebody passed away or somebody is moving, and they're just selling everything that's in the house. And in this particular case, well, I'll tell you what the situation was later on in this particular case. But that's what an estate sale is. And it's usually on weekends, sometimes during the week, and it usually starts early, like 8, 9 in the morning. And if there are things in the house that, are desirable, there's going to usually be a line of people to get into the house. So it was a few days away, and as the day approached, I was kind of still, iffy about going because you got to get there really early, and usually there's other people there before you, and it's kind of a little bit nerve-wracking because especially if you want something, if there's 5 people in front of you in the line, uh, you know, you're gonna now, and you get there like really early, like 2 hours before the house opens. It's just kind of nerve-wracking. You're there, you're wondering what these people in front of you want. Do they want the same thing you want? And sometimes you just don't feel like dealing with that kind of stuff. But what happened was the night before, I went to sleep thinking about it. Should I go? Shouldn't I go? Well, what happened was I went to sleep, and in the morning I kind of just woke up early, just like suddenly woke up at like 6 in the morning, I think it was. This estate sale was going to start at 9. I think it was like 5:30 or 6 in the morning. I just kind of woke up, and I was like, all right, so do I want to go? And I was like, okay, screw it. I'm up, I'm awake. Let me just go. I had a cup of coffee. It was still dark out. This was in October of 2016. It was still dark out, and had a cup of coffee and got dressed and went. I got there within like 10 minutes, if not less. And when I got there, it was still dark. Now, the reason I got there so early, I got there like at 6:30 in the morning, is because I knew if I show up at 8:30 in the morning, or if I show up at 8 in the morning, 1 hour before the house opens, I'm going to be like 10th, 20th in line. And then I could kiss the camera goodbye. I'm not going to get it. Somebody else is going to get it. And it happened before at other estate sales. There's one guy that I kept seeing at estate sales, always looking for cameras. And one time I went for a Rolleiflex, and I got there kind of like half hour before the house opened, and the guy was there. He was one of the first ones in line. I was probably like 50th in line. And next thing I know, he has a nice Rolleiflex camera in his hand, paying for it, and that was that. So I learned my lesson, and so I went really early. Now, I don't know. I didn't know if when I got there if I was going to be the first, the second, the third, the fourth. I don't know. But I get there. It's dark outside. It was kind of like like a like a like a townhouse type place, and like condominiums, townhouses, that kind of stuff, kind of modern. And so I park on a spot in the street. It's dark out. You feel a little weird. You're kind of like it's 6:30 in the morning. It's dark, and you're kind of sitting in your car in a neighborhood that's not really yours. But I get there and there's nobody there. So that's victory number one. I identify the house. I walk up to the door. There's like a sign there or something. So I know I'm at the right house. And usually at an estate sale, you have to create a list. If you're first there, you want to create a list and put your name on it as number one. You're the first person there. So I did that immediately. I had a piece of paper with me and a pen and a marker. So I made a list, 1 to whatever, 1 to 10, 1 to 20, and I put my name as number one. So if anybody else showed up after me, I would give them the list. They would put their name on it. So when I got there and I was the first person, I was immediately relieved because, like I said, that's your first victory when you get to an estate sale for something that you want and there's nobody there. So I got there early enough for that. So put my name on the list, and basically now I went back in the car, turned the car on, stayed warm, and I think about a half hour went by, and another car pulled up, and guess who it was? It was the guy that got the Rolleiflex a few months earlier ahead of me, and I had seen him in other estate sales. So my arch rival, I guess, showed up a half hour after me, and I recognized him immediately. I don't know if he recognized me, but I recognized him. And so I tell him I have the paper. He puts his name in there. I think his name was Richard. And he puts his name on there, and he goes back in his car. And I know that he's there for the Hasselblad. But I'm first in line, so that means I get to walk into the house first. And that could mean that's good, but it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get what you want to get, in this case, the camera. See, I already had that first victory of getting there first, but now there's other little battles that you have to go through to kind of guarantee victory, you know. And now that I'm thinking of it, before this guy showed up, one of the workers that were working at the house showed up before him. Because I recall now that soon after I got there, I think it was starting to get light. One of the workers pulled up, and I didn't know if he was somebody that was there like me for to get online. But I quickly identified that he was working there. He kind of was very friendly, and he was talking to me. And I asked him. I said, "Hey, do you know what the price of that camera that you guys put online, how much the cameras are going to be?" I didn't want to give anything away. I didn't want to like ask him specifically about the Hasselblad. I just asked him the cameras, right? Because I don't want to kind of tip them off that they have something really nice there. So he's like, "Which one? The nice one?" That was his answer. Like when I said, "What's the price of the cameras?" He said, "Which one? The really nice one? The nice one, the expensive one?" I'm like, "All of them, whatever. What are they?" So amazingly, he was friendly enough. He didn't know the price, but he actually picked up his phone and he called the person in charge still at their house. Now this is like, usually these people will tell you like, "Well, you just got to wait until you get in the house and you'll see." But this guy was extremely nice. He got his phone, he called the woman that was running the estate sale, and he asked her. I heard him ask her. He's like, "Hey, there's somebody here for the camera. He's here really early. He's curious to know if we have a price for it." And they're talking back and forth. He's like, "Yeah, the nice one. How much is the nice one?" And then he's like, "Okay," and he hung up. Now he said it was $450 for the nice one, and I don't think he identified exactly which one was the nice one to me. I had to kind of just imagine, but apparently one of the cases, it was going to be $450. So soon after that, the guy goes in the house to start his work and organize stuff. And that's when that other guy showed up, the second guy in line, the one that got the Raleigh Flex from another day. And so that guy gets there. Then a third guy gets there. Like, I think he was a really young kid. It must have been like 19 years old, which was surprising. And he kind of told me right off the bat that he was there for the camera, like either the Hasselblad or something, a medium format camera he wanted. So, and then a couple other people showed up. So now we had like about 5 guys there. There was a woman there also. And, I didn't really talk to all of them, so I didn't know if they all were there for the camera or something else. But, again, I was first in line. Now, here's the second challenge that happens. Where in the house is the camera gonna be? Because let's say it's a big house and and they don't tell you exactly where stuff is. So when you walk in, your option is to ask the person that's opening the door, "Hey, where are the cameras?" Right? And then they say the basement, and then you got to kind of like either run or slowly walk, but like be careful because somebody might pass you. So again, nerve-wracking, right? Um, you want to find out where the stuff is so you know where to go, because if they don't tell you and now you're wandering around the house looking for this, somebody else is going to find it before you. So first of all, like I said, it was like a townhouse, and the windows there was no curtain, so you could see inside the apartment, the house. And I asked the guy, that same guy, later on. He kind of showed up at the door, or he showed up outside again, or something like that. And I asked him, like, "Hey, do you know where the cameras are going to be? Just so I know where to go when the door opens." And he's like, "Oh, the cameras are going to be like right by the door, right by the window in the living room. Just walk in the door, it's going to be right there." So that was like huge relief. Like, had he told me it's going to be upstairs in the bedroom, then you have to go like, 200 feet from the door upstairs or downstairs, and anything can happen. But he told me it's going to be right there by the door, as soon as you walk in by the window. So then I went actually to the window and I looked inside, and there they were, 3 cases with the cameras, and they were all open, and the price was on them. On each one of them, there was a price tag on it, like a tape with a marker price on it. And unbelievably, the Hasselblad case was marked at $150. $150. There's 2 Hasselblads in there. There's 2 lenses. There's Polaroid back and other stuff. And to be exact, there was a Hasselblad 500 cm. There was a 500 ELM. There was an 80 millimeter lens. There was a 250 millimeter lens. And then there was a Polaroid back and other accessories that were included in the case. The other case with Mamaya's was also priced at 150. Okay, and unbelievably, the other Mamaya case, that where the foam was all melted onto the camera, it was marked at $450. Of course, I didn't say anything. I'm not going to complain. All I know is now, basically, I have everything lined up for a victory here. I'm first in line. I know the prices, and I know where everything is, and everything is just basically 5 feet away, 10 feet away from where I'm going to walk in. The door is right over here, and the cameras are to the right, about 10 feet away. I go in first. All I have to do is make a quick right and put my hand on the stuff, whatever I want, and basically it's mine if I want it, right? Everything's planned out. It's like a safe bet. unless I trip on my way in, somebody runs over me. There's no way they're going to get to that before me. So 9 o'clock comes, and the door opens. And just before that, I was thinking, okay, do I want just the case with the Hasselblad, or do I want the case with the Mamiya also for $150? Oh, and by the way, the guy, my arch rival, the one second in line, he had gone back to his car and he fell asleep. And he never, I guess he never, I don't think he put, I don't think he put his name on the list now that I'm thinking, or he did, or maybe he did, and he just, all I know is that he fell asleep in the car. And by the time he got back up and came out, now he had to go, he was like fifth in line or sixth in line. So he had lost a few spots. So he was really disappointed, but, what are you going to do? So I had to decide, do I want both cases or just the Hasselblad? I was not going to take the $450 melted Mamiya case. No way. And I told the kid, I actually told the 18, 19-year-old kid, I go, look, I'm going for the Hasselblad, and I'm probably gonna take the Maya also. I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is. Um, so 9 o'clock, doors open. I, as planned, walk in, make a quick right, put my hand on the case of the Mamiya, put my hand on the case of the Hasselblad. Now they're mine as long as I decide to pay for them. The other kid comes in, the 19-year-old, and he grabs the $450 case of the melted Mamiya. But in the end, he decides not to take it. It's too much money, and it's a mess. Somebody else ended up buying it, and they probably are still cleaning it. But anyway, so now I have the two cases. I look at everything, and I'm obviously going to take the Hasselblad for $150. And I eventually decide that I'm going to take the Mamiya. Now, the reason I took the Mamiya was because I figured, well, maybe I could sell the Mamiya and, whatever, end up getting the Hasselblad for even less. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. I eventually, like maybe a few weeks later, I put the Mamiya up for sale somewhere. And I really didn't get much for it. I got like $200 for it, including the case. I should have kept the case, but I sold everything, the Mamiya, for $200. So I only made like $50 on the Mamiya, and that's how I calculate that I got the Hasselblads for $100. I paid $150 over there, but then later on I sold the Mamiyas for $200, made $50 back. So essentially, I got the Hasselblads for $100, $150. What's the difference? It's a win-win. So I obviously walked out of there very happy, and I was even happier once I tested the camera and started shooting with it. I was blown away by the quality that it produces, and it's the stuff that I've been posting here on YouTube. And as a final detail, the as I was leaving, somebody came out of the house, a woman that looked like she either was working there or lived there, and turns out she lived there, and she was the spouse. She told me the story. I don't know how I started talking to her or how it came up, but we talked, and she told me that the camera equipment was her husband's, and he had passed away, not sure how long before, and that he had purchased, I think, the Hasselblads in the 70s, and they were very well taken care of, and that I think he was a photographer, or a hobby was photography. So she told me a little bit about him, which was really nice, and I promised her that I would, put the camera to good use, and so that was really nice, and so that's who owned the camera. Anyway, that's the story. I know it was long story, going on 25 minutes, but it was quite thrilling. I'm really glad I woke up that morning and glad that I decided to go, because This camera, the Hasselblad, has really inspired me to, shoot more and go out and explore and do stuff. So I just love the quality of it. Um, the one thing about estate sales, and if you haven't done them before, that or finding things like this, the one thing about it is that when you find something, the next day it's like you want to find more. You kind of get addicted in a way, it's like you gotta get it. You get it like an adrenaline rush after you find something. You're like enthused, and then like a day passes and you're like, okay, can I find another? But finding a Hasselblad in an estate sale, I don't think I've ever seen one other than that day. And to find them for $150, obviously the people that were doing the estate sale, the company in charge of the estate sale, they didn't do their research on this. They shouldn't have priced. They should have priced the Hasselblads at 450, if anything, and not the uh, the horrible melted Mamiya for 450. I don't know what they were thinking, but that's what they did, and I wasn't about to complain. I think that covers everything. Again, sorry about the length if you made it through all this. If you made it through all this, let me know. Comment down below. I like to read any comments. And that's about it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much. Come on back for more photos pretty soon.